We visited Canyonlands National Park in Moab, Utah in the spring of 2004 over the span of 2 days. If you would like to get notices when I post again, be sure to subscribe right here. Just click on that button. This park was established on September the 12th, 1964, and has approximately 750,000 visitors a year. This is going to be a rather long video, as I'm going to be showing the driving into and out of the park because of the beauty of the area around it. This video will be a compilation of the first full day and the second half day in Canyonlands National Park. On day 10, we'll be leaving Moab and driving to Canyonlands National Park, the Needles District, where we'll look around for most of the day. Then we will come back and go to the Needles Overlook before returning to Moab for the night. Canyonlands National Park is the greatest display on Earth of sedimentary rock, mainly sandstone. As you can see, it covers millions of years. Canyonlands Needle area and Maze is here. Monument Valley is at this level. Canyonlands Island in the sky we'll see tomorrow is at this level. And then we move up the arches that we'll see the next day. And then on up to Dinosaur National Park, where we'll be in a few weeks. And lastly, Bryce Canyon, which will be near the end of our trip. So as you can see, this area covers many millions of years of history. Canyonland was produced by a vast inland sea that turned into a desert and then into a river delta that deposited these deposits. This park is the largest one in Utah and one of the largest in the United States, with over 350,000 acres. It is about 50 miles downstream from Arches National Park on the Colorado River. We'll be seeing that in a few days. It is divided into 3 sections by the Colorado River and the Green River. We will not be going into the Maze area. It's the most remote and rugged terrain in the lower 48 states, and the only way in is by foot. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and their Hole in the Wall gang hid out here during much of their time. The rest of the park is 2 parks in one, so to speak. Islands in the Sky is a mesa that we'll be looking down into the other area from, kind of like standing on the rim of the Grand Canyon and looking down. And then Needles is at the bottom of that canyon. It'll be like standing in the Grand Canyon and looking up. And that's what we'll be looking at today. In the early morning, we wake up in Moab, Utah, and look at the mountains across from our hotel. And then it's time to get headed out. It's a long drive down to Needles from where we are now. Along the way, we're going to see some very spectacular scenery. Although we'll be looking at Arches National Park tomorrow and seeing hundreds of arches, there's arches everywhere in this area. We'll be talking later about how arches are formed. Soon we're turning off the regular highway and heading down the small path. It's an open range, so if you run over a cow, you pay, not the farmer paying you to repair your car. It's a long drive off the main highway down a smaller road to get to Needles. In fact, you have to drive down through a canyon to get there. And now we enter the canyon as we slowly wind down toward the bottom of the valley. Some of this canyon is very well watered with streams, and so trees and other vegetation can grow there, especially cottonwoods. And then we come out of the canyon onto the floor of the main canyon, the Needles area. We've been driving in along the valley floor on the long road and finally have come to Canyonlands National Park, the Needles Division. It is a rather long route as we come in, and we will be looking around the park here all most of the day. You can see most of it is not covered by roads. We'll be staying mainly on the paved roads or gravel roads to look at what we see today. First, we'll be stopping at the Visitor Center to get an idea of what we'll be looking at. As you can see from this, it's a hugely rugged terrain that we're going to be driving around through with many mountains everywhere. We'll mainly be seeing two types of rock while we're here: white sandstone that is made of sediments along the seashore, and red sandstone, which is made up of sediments carried in and have a lot of iron that then oxidizes as it's exposed to the air. Grabens, or valleys, in between the rock formations are not formed by erosion so much as by collapse of the rock layers below them. Then two things happen to these rock fins. Either they crack into various sections and erode away, leaving rock spires called needles, and thus the name of the area we're in, or they can erode in weak sections of layers with the wind blowing sand through them and create arches. We'll see arches here also, but most of the arches will be in a few days at Arches National Park. Another formation we'll see are mushroom rocks. They are made when a hard rock cap erodes more slowly than the softer layers below it. The hardness of a sedimentary rock depends on both its mineral content and the amount of cementing agent holding the sand grains together. As we look around the rock formations just outside the Visitor Center, we can see many of these different types of formations that we've been talking about. And now it's time for Deborah the Explorer and her cameraman to take off looking in this park. We'll be following this route at the beginning of our trip today. We'll be stopping along the way at various places to have looks and to take pictures. Soon as we drive along, we come to the unusual formation called Wooden Shoe Arch. As you can see here, looks like a wooden shoe from Holland. Now we'll be going off the paved road onto a gravel road to Elephant Hill. It'll be kind of rough, so we're not going to have a lot of video, but you'll be able to see the pictures as we drive along. Then we come to the end of our road. For the four-wheel drive road, we're not going to be taking it. We don't have a four-wheel drive. Next, we'll be heading out to Big Springs Canyon Overlook to get a look down into the rivers. On the way, we'll stop and go to Pothole Point Trail. We'll walk it across the slick rock and see wonderful views, but also see the potholes, which we'll talk about in a minute. This trail is about a half a mile long, and I'll go exploring while Deborah rests in the car. As you can see, there are many mushroom rock deposits here, and some have even collapsed and fallen over. This rock looks almost like a marble the way it's been weathered, and here's some pointing the way. From this point, you can get a very good look over the needles in the distance and see how they are formed. Besides the beautiful views, I have come to look at the potholes, these sandy depressions that you see here. They contain life when it rains here. Even though it only rains 7 to 9 inches a year here, they come alive within seconds. As you can see here, water will remain for quite some time. Eggs and larvae can lay dormant for over 50 years until the rain comes. The biggest threat to these potholes are humans, actually. Their body oil, soaps, and sunscreens destroy all life in a pothole, and since each ecosystem is unique, you destroy an entire ecosystem. As you can see here, there are snails in this water. And there are various algae species here too, as you can see floating here. And then there are tadpole shrimp here. You can see this one moving in the water. The tadpole shrimp date back to over 200 million years, and they lay their eggs in the sediment to bury them, as you can see this one here doing. In potholes, they have found 15 species of beetles, 2 species of mosquito larvae, 3 forms of water bugs, fairy shrimp, tadpoles, water fleas, mayflies, gnats, tadpoles of various kinds from various frogs and toads. They're actually a very unique and diverse habitat. As you can see, this pothole is very deep. In fact, it could last for several months after the rain quits. Now it's time to talk about another ecosystem, the soil itself. It looks so dead, but you don't walk on this soil because it is living, and to step on it will destroy what it took over 1,000 years to produce. It's held together with cyanobacteria and is extremely fragile. This soil can lay dormant for decades if it needs to, and it looks so dead, but actually it took over 1,000 years to produce this soil right here, and you can destroy it with one step. Let's watch this ranger's demonstration of the living soil.
So you can see that they're sort of a dark brown, and we'll wet them, and within literally seconds, they're turning green already. This place is absolutely alive. Every surface is alive.
This is not time-lapse photography. This is moss in rapid response mode. Tiny organisms, dormant sometimes for decades, lay in wait for just a few drops to revive them.
What's happening here is hidden life. There's life everywhere you look.
And now it's time for us to head back out. We'll be taking the alternate route when we get to the Y before leaving the park. We'll be stopping obviously along the way to take pictures and to look. And before we get started, here's a raven looking for a handout maybe. And now it's time to head back up the valley and out of the park. We'll then wind around on the highway and turn off and head to Needles Overlook. Today we've been looking in this area, and now we've moved to the Needles Overlook. Tomorrow we'll be at Islands of the Sky, but right now we're on the end of a mesa looking down into Needles. And those roads below are uranium mines that they have dug in this area in the past, and so these were the roads for digging those mines. Let's just sit back and look at some of the views of the valley that we were in today. In this area there are a lot of lichens and moss growing on the rocks, as you can see, and they give a beautiful color to the rocks. Along the path, a Hopi chipmunk pops up. And then we also see a whiptail lizard, which soon scurries off to hide. Various plants are also in flower right now. In the distance, we can see the Abajo Mountains. They look almost like they have a frosting on them. And you can see up on this mesa, it's a sagebrush habitat. And now it's time to head back to Moab, where we'll be spending the night. On the way back, we'll pass Hole in the Rock. It has a petting zoo and other things, and a huge lizard crawling up the rock. This is now a tourist trap and souvenir shop, but at one time it was owned by a family who actually lived inside the rock and loved Jesus. Transformers 4 was filmed here in part, and now it's time to head on back to Moab.
We will now start day 2.
We head north out
our
of
trip.
Moab, and soon we're crossing the Colorado River. These mesas are named after the Merrimack and the Monitor, the first ironclad warships in the Civil War. Soon we're turning off the highway and out through the open range. Now we arrive at Canyonlands National Park, Islands in the Sky Division this time. Yesterday we were down in the Needles Division, which is the bottom of the canyon, and today we're riding along the mesa and Islands of the Sky. We'll be following this route through the park, stopping at the Visitor Center, then looking at Mesa Arch before going over to Upheaval Dome. Then we'll come back to the Green River Overlook, Buck Canyon Overlook, and finish up at the Grand View Overlook before heading back out of the park. As you can see from this diagram, we'll be driving along the top of the mesa looking down into the canyon. We stop at the Visitor Center to get some information, and again we'll be seeing many of the same rock layers that we've been seeing throughout this area. Soon we'll be driving across the neck area. This is where the mesa is only about as wide as the road itself, with canyons dropping off on both sides, as you can see the two places here. And this is another view where the guardrails are closest to us. And it does drop off into very deep canyons on both sides. First stop is a hike out to Mesa Arch along the trail. The arch is right on the edge of the mesa, so you can see through it into the canyon. Let's just look as we walk along. Here again we look back at the neck area of the mesa. Mesa Arch is about a half-mile walk, and you can see here it's sitting on the edge of a 6,000-foot drop-off. At the right angle, the sunrise is spectacular here. Now time to head on over to Upheaval Dome, which is a really mysterious place here right on the edge of the mesa. It's about 3 miles across this and over 1,000 feet deep. And we'll be looking at the first two overlooks as I take the trail up to the top. You have to go over the edge of the crater to get into it. And here we can see the mysterious formation that geologists still debate how it was formed. Whatever formed this made a huge crater in the earth and distorted the rocks greatly. Here you can see what the rocks look like now, but they've been so twisted, this is what they would have looked like when it started, and you can see how this fracture has dropped land levels and displaced them. Some think it might have been a salt dome is at the bottom that collapsed. Others think it's a meteor strike about 200 million years ago. We really don't know. And now it's time to head down, and as I go, I look around at the various plants and flowers growing in this area. Deborah has been waiting for me down below, and she's been taking some of her own pictures of the surrounding area. She's even caught some pictures of a cliff chipmunk. And now it's time to head over to Grandview Point Overlook. Along the way, we'll stop at the Green River Overlook and the Buck Canyon Overlook. Many think this rock formation looks like a whale. No, not the one with the rear end stuck in the air. We have now arrived at the Green River Overlook, 6,000 feet above the canyon below. We're greeted by a raven when we get here. They seem to be in various places where people are looking for food, and the view is truly spectacular as the Green River has cut down through the surrounding canyon. This is Turk's Head, one of the formations there, and that's the Green River there. As you can see here, the canyon washes very deeply as water runs off of the lower mesa and into the Green River here. And there are many uranium mining roads around that are there from the uranium mines that are in this area. The Green River separates the Islands in the Sky division from the Maze division of Canyonlands National Park. There are many unusual formations in this area. Here's a road that looks like it's fallen apart. The Henry Mountains in the distance, Cleopatra's Chair. And this is Ecker's Butte. It's actually in Glen Canyon National Recreation Area just across the border. And now it's time to move on down the road. And soon we'll be coming to Buck Canyon Overlook and looking down in this canyon. We are now on the Colorado side of the mesa, and you can see it washes very deeply also. And this is the Colorado River as it flows in. This area has had many uranium mines in it, and you can see some of the construction. And now we arrive at Grandview Point. Although you can't see the rivers from here, this is the area where the confluence of the Green River and the Colorado River are. As they flow together, they actually stay separate for some distance, as you can see from this silt layer here. Below we see White Rim Road, one of the four-wheel drive roads in this area that you can drive along. And this is the Needles area that we were in yesterday at the bottom of the canyon. In fact, you can see some needles down in the formations. And now it's time to head back out of the canyon. Here we are passing the neck area again. As you can see how it drops off into canyons on both sides here, and a little bit later down the road as we go around several more curves. We now head out of the park across the open range, headed toward
This brings us to the end of this video.